Did you just call me a nerd?
Not all geeks are nerds.
Yeah.
This is Geek Therapy Radio.
What are we waiting for?
And now your mental curator, Johnny Hamburger.
If you're just tuning into the broadcast here on KPRC 950, welcome back to Geek Therapy Radio. You can find Geek Therapy Radio all over the place on social media and podcasts. Just Google search Geek Therapy Radio, and you'll see it'll come up, Geek Therapy Radio with Johnny Hamburger. Subscribe to the podcast, follow the Instagram and the Facebook and the YouTube and all that good stuff. There's so much content there, but really, welcome into Geek Therapy Radio. In this segment, I want to talk about two things. One, more than the other. This is going to be some tech news, some geek news, of course. One, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on, but it's the MacBook Air, the new MacBook Air. And the second one is the new foldable display Samsung phone slated for release sometime in 2019. So first, let's talk briefly about my opinions on the MacBook Air, the new MacBook Air. And here it is. Drum roll. That was a very bad drum roll. First of all, I don't have a MacBook Air. I don't plan on buying a MacBook Air, but I don't hate the idea or innately hate the new MacBook Air just for what it is. Could your dollar go a lot further for something more powerful and, of course, bigger and heavier than the MacBook Air at $1,200? I believe that's a starting point. Yes, you could get so much more for your money if you want something heavier and running Windows, basically. The MacBook Air comes so close to the cost of a traditional 13-inch MacBook that my advice, honestly, would be to get the MacBook. It's $100 more expensive or so, more powerful, better storage. If I was going to spend around $1,200 to $1,300 on a MacBook, I personally would go with the 13-inch MacBook Pro. That's just me. But I don't inherently hate the MacBook Air. Some people have said it's only a 7-watt Y series Intel Core i5. That's not a big deal breaker to me, because you got to think, who's going to be using this? You're not going to be using the MacBook Air to do any sort of hardcore video editing or image editing, photo editing. You're not going to be doing 3D CAD designs. You're not going to be using it as a powerhouse laptop. If you're spending $1,200 on a powerhouse laptop, you are not spending that $1,200 on a MacBook Air. But what you are using it for, you're using it for typing, you're using it for social media, you're using it to watch YouTube, you're using it to do some office tasks. And in that regard, my only gripe with the MacBook Air is that I think it should be a couple $100 cheaper. If it were a couple $100 cheaper, it would be a much nicer entry point for those of us who aren't invested in the Apple ecosystem, who are looking to get an Apple product. I think $1,000 would be much nicer for an entry point, but it's just the Apple tax. It being expensive, that's just the Apple tax. Let's move on to the Samsung foldable phone slated for release. There's no name for it yet, really. And right now it's just a prototype that they showed off recently, that Samsung showed off. That's hard to say. But this is more of an opinion, and I want your opinion. If you are watching this on YouTube, if you're listening on KPRC 950 or listening to the podcast, go subscribe, please, to the Geek Therapy Radio YouTube channel. Just type in YouTube Geek Therapy Radio and it'll come up. I want your opinions on there. That's a very convenient way to give me your opinion on the new Samsung foldable phone slated for release in 2019. Are we ready for foldable phones? Here's some pros and cons, just off the top of my head. Pro is, yes, it's the form factor of a phone as far as screen size when it's in phone mode, but you unfold it and you've got a tablet, a lot of screen real estate. I think that's amazing. I think that's awesome. The cons are to be seen, I think. Actually, go back to the pros. You could fit a much bigger battery. You could fit 2 batteries in there. You can't fold a battery. That's bad news, bears. But if you could put 2, 3,300 milliamp hour batteries in that thing, man, that thing would crush at battery life. Cons. And again, cons are to be seen because This is just a prototype, and that's something I think a lot of us need to remember here is that it's just a prototype. When Samsung showed it off recently, a couple days ago, when it was folded, it was a brick. When it was open, it was a thick tablet. This is just a prototype. This is just a proof of concept. I think with some refinement, honestly, quite a bit of refinement, this could be an amazing piece of technology. Get us one step farther towards a unified device that we can do all of our computing on, or 90% of our computing on. Basically, keep your beefy desktop computer at home and then carry around with you a foldable smartphone that you can do more work on. It's great that it's going to be Android, and it's great that Google has officially announced software support for native Android foldable support from Google. Google is working on making an ecosystem work for foldable Android devices. That's amazing. Here's my speculation of where it could be even more awesomer. What if Windows makes a phone that doesn't suck? And as I say that, Windows phones, my goodness. But if you actually, bear with me here, if you made a Windows phone that had an actual, i3 of whatever variant, Y series i3, a low power, even 5-watt chip in there, 2 watts even, where you can do the bulk of your PC work and have a phone with you at all times, that would be amazing. So I think the future for foldable phone technology is bright and amazing. Do not let the first prototypes get you down. For now, that's it for Geek Therapy Radio. Let's pay some bills on the way out. Audi Central Houston and AudiCentralHouston.com. I know you've heard me talk a lot about Audi Central Houston on Geek Therapy Radio, but it's easy. Even if they weren't partners of the show, I would still send friends and family to Audi Central Houston. I have been a customer of Audi Central Houston since even before Geek Therapy Radio was ever on the air. My dad was a customer of Audi Central Houston, so I know how they treat customers at Audi Central Houston. They treat you like family. And what are you getting when you go to Audi Central Houston? And remember, there's an Audi for every budget. From the A3 to the R8, there's an Audi in every budget at Audi Central Houston. What you're getting is all the safety. What you're getting is all the sophistication. It really is a rolling piece of art. You're getting all the fuel efficiency, and you're getting all the technology that us geeks and everybody can geek out over. They are absolutely amazing. The new A6, the new A8, the new Q8, all can be found at Audi Central Houston and AudiCentralHouston.com. Tell them Geek Therapy Radio sent you.